What's going on everyone, my name is 8-Bit Preston and welcome back to the Sonic Retrospective. Now if you're wondering why I'm not structuring this like the last video where I showed my face, you know, with the Sonic Mega Collection and stuff, that's because I found it was really difficult to work with and edit. So I'm sorry if you guys prefer that formula, but I'll only be sticking to that formula for honest reviews and not for the retrospective. But anyways, moving on. Last time we covered Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is one of my personal favourites in the series, and now we're going to be moving on to one of my... well, it used to be one of my favourites, but now I think it's quite the overrated title. Welcome everyone to my thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Sit back everyone and enjoy. Let's begin with the plot. This game takes place directly after Sonic the Hedgehog 2, because at the end of that game Sonic hitches a ride with Tails on the Tornado as they escape the Death Egg. Now they decide to hitch a ride to Angel Island where Sonic transforms to Super Sonic but abruptly gets stopped by Knuckles, newcomer to the series, who decides to knock him out and take the emeralds. Sonic stands and watch in shock, you could call it. So the chase begins and we get kicked off straight into Angel Island. The rest of the game is one big journey through the world to track down Knuckles and get back the Chaos Emeralds, to which we then find out that the Chaos Emeralds are scattered inside these special stages as usual. But then Dr. Eggman decides to betray Knuckles because we find out that he was actually listening to Eggman's command the whole time, which was to take out Sonic and take the emeralds. So Knuckles finds out he got betrayed and Knuckles is now on our side, but weakened from our attack on him later on, he decides to sacrifice himself, well, not kill himself, but allow himself to open up the gateway to Sky Sanctuary to allow us to finish our mission to chase down Eggman and get back the Master Emerald for him. Eventually everything gets resolved, we're all friends and everything's all good. Quite the simple story, but it's a good one, short but sweet. As you can quite clearly see, the characters and the scenery have had quite the visual change. They have more pixels than ever before. And while I can really appreciate what they do with the scenery in this game, I'm not a big fan of the character models personally. As many people have described it before, they look kind of bubbly compared to what they did in the previous games, and it's something that I don't really like. Fair enough, it decided to change the appeal because, you know, if the console's getting older, we need a new graphical style to make it look like technology's advancing. You know, it's a marketing sale, but at the same time, I don't really like this from a biased standpoint. But I've loved these characters all my life, and to see them in a different state of form that I can't really appreciate, it does feel quite disappointing to me. But I'm not going to let that take me away from the overall experience of the game. Alright, enough of the chit chat, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay in this game is basically what you remember from the previous two games, apart from this time the level designs are much more expansive and they actually encourage exploration this time around. Because certain levels, if you don't explore, you're probably not going to beat them in under 5 minutes. Which levels such as Marble Garden, they can really drag on if you don't know what you're doing or if you don't really decide to explore as much. Which is a reason why I really didn't like this game at first, because I didn't explore. But after obviously going through the game again and actually finishing it this time, I now understand why people say this game has the best level design in Sonic history. But I can disagree. While fair enough, I do think exploration in a Sonic game like this is mandatory to have a better gameplay, because, you know, it's better than just a linear level most of the times. I personally prefer linear level style like there was in Sonic 2, because it means you can just breeze through the level, absolutely no problems about it. It's a test of skill. Well, it's not really a test of skill, but it's a test of how much you know the game, which doesn't necessarily mean play through it a million times, trial and error, blah blah blah. It basically means how well do you know Sonic and how can you work him to make sure you can get to the goal as fast as possible. That's not the case with this game. This game, each level has its own unique gimmick to the point where it becomes quite pathetic sometimes, because in Angel Island Zone you have these like zip lines. In Hydro City you've got water. Marble Garden you've got these spinning tops as well as these little pulleys. Carnival Night you've got the barrels. It's just standard stuff at this point really for Sonic. But back then it was a new experiment, something that we've never seen before, and something that many people liked about the game. But something I have never liked about the game. I do not really like this game's level design. If it was more linear like the previous game, I'd have a blast with this game. But it's not. I mean, yeah, fair enough, it still encourages the momentum-based gameplay, and it is a really fast-paced game. But I just prefer the previous game, I'm sorry. Now it's time to talk about each level individually and say if it's a good level, bad level, and the pros and cons of it. Let's roll. The first zone of the game is Angel Island, everyone's favourite Green Hill Zone ripoff, and it is a pretty good zone. It's got the it's just the usual. It's got the main formula of Sonic. It's got the momentum, the speed, the loops, everything like that. It basically serves as a tutorial level without having to put any text on the screen, which is genius, simply because of the way it manages this. Not only is the level design quite simplistic and easy to navigate, but also it teaches you about everything new in the game, such as how there's elemental shields now, which the water one protects you from water, the fire one from fire, etc, etc. It's actually quite smart, and it acts as a really good tutorial level. And something else that you find out in this game from the very start of it is that each act is completely different. You could play through Act 1 and see that it is basically just, you know, Act 1, but then Act 2 has completely different music and a completely different visual style. It's really, really nice, and it's a welcome addition. Moving on to the second zone, we have Hydro City, everyone's favourite water level. Now, Hydro City is quite the good zone, I will admit. It's got some funky music, it's got some decent gameplay, but it's still not my thing. I'm not a big fan of water levels in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, and I never have been, and I probably never will be. But for what it is, yeah, it is a really good water level. You know, it's fast, exhilarating, it teaches us that we can run on water. That's a really cool addition. And also as well, it teaches us how the water shield is your best friend in environments like this. Again, a really good level with really good structure. The next level is Marble Garden, and in my opinion, I think it's a bad level. The level design is far too big for a start. This level can drag on for up to 5 minutes if you don't know what you're doing or where you're going, which is a seriously long amount of time for a Sonic level, especially one of the classic eras, because they usually last up to about a minute tops. And compared to other games such as Sonic Unleashed with levels that can last up to an hour because of the Warhog on its own, it still feels like it's a drag no matter what. Also as well, there's these gimmicks in this level which really get on my nerves, such as the spinning tops. Fair enough, they're used to traverse the level, I understand, but they can be a real pace breaker and just piss me off most of the time. I don't like this level, and I don't know really why anyone does. Oh Lord save our souls. The next level is easily one of the worst levels in Sonic history. Carnival Night Zone. Oh boy, everyone's got a bone to pick with this. The level design, like Marble Garden, is quite expansive, and in this case is bad simply because this level is a big level, and considering its theme, it's appropriate that it feels like a maze. And it's not a very good maze either. It's nothing fun. It's basically like playing Sonic Labyrinth but with speed. It's not fun. And also the barrel. Everyone remembers the barrel, pushed up and down, blah blah blah. Then there's water every now and then. It's just not fun. No one likes this zone. The next level is one of my personal favourites, is Ice Cap Zone. This level has easily one of the best songs in Sonic history, and it starts with one of the coolest segments in Sonic history, which probably inspired the snowboarding opening of City Escape, which is actually kind of cool actually. But you start inside of a not inside, but you start on a snowboard and you go down a hill, and then you're inside of this ice cave and you navigate through it, and I swear to God, it is actually quite a decent level because it's quite linear. There's not that much in your way of exploring, and it's just a good time really. It's nothing special, but at the same time it's a really good level. I enjoy it. Moving on to the next zone, we have Launch Base, and Launch Base is only here to serve as a halfway point, I'm going to be honest. It's not a fun zone by any means. It's more like Marble Zone in Sonic 1. It's just a slow paced challenge really, that focuses more on platforming than what it does speed, which, you know, I can understand. You know, we're getting further into the game and we want it to be much more challenging, but I don't really think it was executed the best it could have been. But I'm not going to criticise because I do have some enjoyable times with this level. Nothing special, but overall a good level. The next level in the game is Mushroom Hill Zone, being one of my personal favourites in the game. It basically serves as a second Angel Island zone, because if you didn't combine Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles using the lock-on technology, and you just played Sonic & Knuckles, this was basically the Angel Island zone of that game. You know, it was the intro. So this basically marks the next chapter in the game. And this is also where we get taken to Hidden Palace, which is where we can turn our Chaos Emeralds into Super Emeralds, which is also where we can, you know, give ourselves the ability to turn into Sonic's new transformation, which we'll never ever see again, Hypersonic. And Hypersonic is basically Supersonic but more broken. But back to the level, it's got some decent design, some fast pace, fun gameplay. It's good stuff all around. Almost to the next zone, and we have Flying Battery Zone, and this is actually quite a fun level, I'll be honest with you. It's fun, it's fast, it's got a killer soundtrack to it as well, I'm not going to lie, which was made even better by T-Lops in Sonic Mania. Honestly, T-Lops, you're a genius, thank you. But back to the level. This level also takes advantage of what the elemental shields are capable of and gives you a good level overall. It's got a decent setting with some you know, fast-paced gameplay. It's all good fun, really. It's a good level. Moving forward, we have Sandorpolis, and can we be straight now? No one likes this level. It's basically, you know, it has the same problem as Carnival Night does. The level is too long, it's too confusing with some bullshit enemy placements, and Act 2 is just awful. Easily the worst zone in the whole game, being, well, only Act 2. The first act is bearable. The second one is kind of like Lights Out from Crash Bandicoot 1. You can't hardly see what you're doing most of the time. There's ghost traps everywhere. It's just an abomination of a level, really. No one likes this zone, and it should be left to die. Moving on to the next level, we have Lava Reef. Back on track we go. This level is a good level. I really like this level. It's got a really good song to it. It's got some good level design. It also takes advantage of the lava shield a lot, which tests your skill because there are hazards all over the place with enemies that can pop out of the wall, which doesn't ever feel cheap if you get hit by them, because you will have enough time to react to them even if you are going at a blazing fast speed. But the lava shield is a must here. It really just goes to show how much you can take advantage of the shield to actually survive longer. Because if you aren't able to live as long as you want to, then, you know, it's game over, innit? So you need this. So you need the lava shield. But other than that, it's a good level, good gameplay, fast paced. It's all good stuff. Jesus Christ, this game is a long one. Next up, we have Sky Sanctuary. That one level that only has one act to it. I believe it's the only one of this kind, but I'm not going to question. Regardless, Sky Sanctuary, everyone only knows this zone from Sonic Generations if you never played this game, and you probably wouldn't even know where it's from even if you haven't played this game and did play Generations. But this version of the level is quite the enjoyable one. It's got some good set pieces to it, the music's good as always, level design is good because of the speed that you get from it, and you can also build up the momentum. Enemy placement never feels cheap or bullshit, but there is some very challenging platforming here and there, but at the same time it's nothing too bad. And also you get a cool fight with Mecha Sonic. I believe it's Mecha Sonic, but yeah, you get a cool boss fight with Mecha Sonic at the end of it, which is pretty nice. Moving on, we have Death Egg, which is the last proper level in the game, and it's not a good one. I mean, fair enough, it has some salvageable aspects and some cool set pieces such as the background and also the ring thing, but I'm sorry, I don't like this level. The gravity physics just ruin it for me. And while fair enough they're not everywhere, it's still apparent enough to make me not like the level, and they just feel like they just drag the level down to a halt. Similar to what, you know, the Warhog does in Unleashed, it just slows the level down far too much. It's not really much fun, but when it is fun, it is pretty decent. Then you've got the grand finale, Doomsday Zone, and this zone is only obtainable, or should I say is only playable if you have Supersonic or Hypersonic unlocked, which isn't a very easy task, which I'm going to explain why it isn't in a minute. But I'm not going to spoil much about this level for you because it is the grand finale of the game and it is an epic one, I'll be honest. So I'll cut the footage here and talk about the special stages. Alright guys, I'm sorry, I don't like these special stages. While fair enough they are so much better than what was in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I still can't appreciate these special stages. Yes, they have a good design to them and they are well structured with some good music, but that's not what counts. It's just the fun factor. It's just not apparent for me. For a start, they're way too fucking difficult. The first one isn't all that bad, but when you get further into it, yes, they get really, really difficult, and difficulty for me in my Sonic game is what I appreciate, but when it's difficult to the point where you need it to finish the game, I'm not a fan. But other than that, yeah, they're better than Sonic 2, but they're not as good as Sonic 1. Really quickly, I just want to briefly mention the bosses. Alright, so I know there's 2 bosses in every act. There's one for Act 1 and there's one for Act 2, but I'm only going to talk about Act 2 bosses because the Act 1 boss is basically just filler content. Alright, so first boss involves Eggman with his new machine, and it involves fire. If you have a fire shield, it's basically the easiest boss in the whole game. But then again, he goes behind this waterfall every now and then, which can throw you off and end up making you, you know, go flying off the side of the arena if you get too cocky. The next boss is in Hydro City, and it's actually quite a good boss. Eggman's in this little machine, which he has a fan underneath it, which he'll suck up water and turn it into like a little jet stream, which if you get caught under it, you'll take damage. But then you have to wait for him to drop these little bombs to bounce off of them and use the current to make you fly into him to damage him. Or if you're clever enough, you can use the bubble shield, take advantage of its bounce ability and hit him that way. Good boss with a good structure. Marble Garden's boss involves teamwork from both you and Tails. Tails will lift you up and you have to jump into him as he's flying away. It's quite the inventive idea and it's quite a decent boss fight. It's not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination, but it's quite a fun one and is actually a really well executed boss. Carnival Knight's boss is very simple. You just gotta keep jumping up and down while avoiding these big marbles that he drops. Really nothing special, it's very easy. Ice Cap's boss sees Eggman with a big stick on his machine, which if you go near it while it's puffing out smoke, you'll get frozen. Honestly, it's one of the easiest bosses in the entire game because the second you knock off the stick, you just get 2 easy hits on him and it's over. Nothing special, honestly, that's the only thing I can say. The boss again in Launch Base Zone is a very easy boss fight, no questions about it. But if you're just playing the original Sonic 3 and not Sonic 3 and Knuckles, this boss would be completely different and it would actually be the final boss in the game with 2 phases, which ultimately led to a better boss fight. Mushroom Hill's boss is quite a cool one actually. You find out that this boss is the culprit of the level turning all colourless. You have to jump through these little gates with spike balls on them, which adds to a nice 3D perspective, which is something that wasn't seen in games back then quite often. The boss fight itself is quite easy, but it's got a nice spectacle to it. Flying Battery's boss is also quite a creative one, but it's not a hard one by any means. You just have to avoid Eggman's hands on this machine and just keep jumping on him every time he pops up. It's not really hard, but at the same time it does have quite the challenge if you're not very good at these type of games. The boss fight in Chitopolis Zone isn't really anything special either. Quite the easy boss fight, to be honest. All you have to do is hit the green thing on top of this, well, mummified brick thing, and its head will open, giving you some easy hits on Robotnik, and that's about it. Lava Reed's boss fight is quite the easy one as well. It doesn't really involve much. All you have to do is stand on these platforms and wait for Robotnik to shoot out spike balls. You can't hit him normally, so you have to make sure you don't get hit by these spike balls and make him hit himself with them, and that's really it. But if you do have Supersonic or Hypersonic, you can't damage him either. The only thing that can damage him is the spike balls. So just make sure you do not touch the lava unless you have a shield. The next boss fight inside of Hidden Palace again isn't really much special. You just screw up to Knuckles and hit him a couple of times and that's it, boss fight over and done with. The Mechasonic fight in Sky Sanctuary is quite an easy fight again. It's basically just a Silver Sonic fight from Sonic 2 but with some more advanced attacks. The quote-unquote final boss fight again is actually quite an easy boss fight. It is just you having to run away from a giant Death Egg robot as he tries to crush you with his fingers. All you have to do is hit his fingers and, well, that's about it. And then after you've destroyed his finger face, all you have to do is just hit him a couple of times towards the cockpit. And I won't say anything about the true final boss because that would be spoiling it for you. Well, that's it. That is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Now, obviously I didn't mention everything because I didn't want to spoil everything, because obviously if I just talk about the game here and you guys just watch it and listen, there's no point in you playing the game. So if you haven't played the game, what are you waiting for? Go play it. It's a good game. But because this is my retrospective, I'm going to give my opinion on it now. Ignore what the critics say. If you want to know what the critics say, good, you listen to the critics, but because you're here, you're going to listen to me. I personally think Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a good game, and it could have been even better than Sonic 2 if it kept the formula of Sonic 2, being linear level design with fun, fast-paced gameplay. Fair enough, the game's fast and it's fun, but the exploration value in this game just makes it far too slow, I think. It isn't as fast as Sonic 2, but it isn't as slow as Sonic 1. It's in the middle, but I don't think it meets what I wanted it to be. But other than that, the game gets a solid 8.5 out of 10. It's really fucking good. But other than that, thank you all for watching the video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to slap a like on the video. It is always appreciated. And I will see you all in the next video of mine. Take care guys, and peace out.